Thanks, Keith.
All right, the tech side of this. Let's turn now to Joe Romm, Senior Fellow at the Center for American Progress, editor of climateprogress.org, and author of Straight Up, which is also a book whose subtitle is too long for television. Thanks for joining us again, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Keith.
Should we be relieved by today's hearings in a perverse way now that we know that no one was at fault?
Yeah, it was a pretty remarkable circular firing squad. BP said, hey, they just leased the rig and the blowout preventer should have avoided the whole thing. Transocean said, hey, the blowout preventer didn't work because there was a blowout. And Halliburton said they were just following orders. I mean, really, do we want these guys between us and a massive oil spill? I think the bottom line is until we get to until we really figure out what happened here, we have to really put the brakes on new drilling.
Yeah, everybody got blamed there except the dinosaurs who died creating the oil. But you mentioned Halliburton following orders. They said they were following orders not just about this spill, but on a spill with totally different owners and operators last year offshore off Australia. Any way we can help Halliburton avoid all these irresponsible oil companies that keep screwing up the good Halliburton name?
Yeah, well, one has to remember this was a company that was run by Dick Cheney.
Really?
And then
I didn't know that. Is that true?
Didn't that? It's been rumored. Dick Cheney's still in hiding, though, so we don't know for sure. But, and then for 8 years, Cheney was in charge of the regulations for this industry. I think the only way that Halliburton is going to avoid these irresponsible companies if it stops working for British Petroleum.
Did the oil industry to some degree create its own catch-22, though, in testimony today, that either that one of them was at fault, in which we can't trust them with the safety of our waters and shores, or none of them was at fault, in which case there might be no way to prevent this from happening again for certain? And either way, doesn't that mean no more drilling?
Yeah, I think we need a commission like we had after the Challenger disaster, the Exxon Valdez disaster. Until we know exactly what happened, I agree with you. One has to be very reluctant to keep going down this voluntary trust us self-regulation approach. Absolutely.
How much trouble does that, I mentioned the shareholder lawsuit against BP by one of its own people. How much could that be in terms of trouble? Because the company's accused of violating the terms of its settlement after a similar suit had followed the horrible blast to Texas City. What now?
Well, the company has certainly been reckless in it's got the worst safety record in the business, and but the fact of the matter is it's making money hand over fist. It can pay for the cleanup to date with just 4 days of profits. So the only thing it's going to notice is if there is, number one, very serious regulation put on the industry. Number two, we got to cut back on the oil subsidies to this industry. And number three, Kerry and Lieberman are going to announce a clean energy bill tomorrow. We got to get off the dirty, unsafe fuels of the 19th century and onto the clean, safe fuels of the 21st century once and for all.
And yet there is an argument being made using this. Do you understand even the parameters of this argument that's being made by some in the Republican Party, that this is a reason to drill more, that this disaster is a reason to do even more drilling? Is that because we lost so much oil during this disaster that we have to find some more to replace the oil that the oil companies just blew?
Well, I think it's safe to say that everything is an excuse to drill more, according to conservatives. But the bottom line is we cannot drill our way out of this problem. We use 25% of the world's oil, and we have 2% of the world's oil reserves. And it's time to really push energy efficiency, fuel economy, and clean energy.
Joe Romm, Center for American Progress. Great. Thanks for your time once again.
Thanks for having me, Keith.